Gorilla Geek going 10-8.
What's up, people? In this episode we're going to connect the Simplex repeater, the Argent Data ADS-SR1 Simplex repeater voice recorder. So we're going to try to interface this with a TYT radio. And I don't really need to do this. I could always buy the cable from Argent Data. It comes already assembled, so I don't have to go through that trouble of making it, and it's cheaper actually to just buy it off the website. But I think it'll be a good thing for me to go ahead and make a cable just to show you guys what it takes to interconnect the radio to any device. And I have another video of that same title that connects a Yaesu VX7R and also connects this older type of radio right here. Eventually, when the final radio that I want to use eventually in the permanent basis would be a King BK radio in the UHF range to cover the GMRS radio, and this is capable of taking that 12 volt input, battery voltage input, and convert it to what it needs. And usually there's an output of 5 volts on the side connector here that I could feed into the device here to power this up. So it's more of a streamlining thing that I want to do with this radio concerning the Simplex repeater, portable Simplex repeater setup. But that's later, after I put the prototype up on the hill and test it out for about a year. But this is ultimately my final goal. But this is an older style radio, and I would have to custom made the side connector to interface with the Simplex repeater. And there's a caravan of kids. When I first got this device, I just ordered the plain common side connector radio adapter here, and I cut the ends off of this because I'm going to modify this. And what happened is I interconnected everything, and I hooked it up first to my Yaesu radio, and it worked right off the bat. I was off to the races. I was playing with it, no problem. Okay, so I put that away, and then I plugged it into my TYT radio, and it was able to transmit and do other stuff, but it didn't pass the audio, the audio that you put into it. Like if you talk into it, it'll record, but it really didn't record anything. So I just kept on transmitting and playing with it, and finally I just gave up on it, and I thought, hey, maybe the connector is different than the Yaesu standard, which they are, but the adapter that I was using, I was able to do it with the Yaesu. So the bottom line, what happened was I damaged one of my TYT radios. The microphone circuit is damaged on it. So what would happen is, if you talk on it,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
you just heard my transmission. The microphone is working on this TYT radio that I didn't interface into it. This is the radio that I use. It transmits 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but there's no microphone audio. So that part of the circuit is messed up on this radio here. Somewhere down the line, it must have happened before some circuitry, because I could still transmit tones. So it must be just in the input of it, and not a total failure or damage to it. And so I might be able to repair this later on, or just use this as spare parts or a little beater up project radio. But that's just a warning for you guys, so you won't take it for granted like I did and just plug in the plug where the hole fits, because they do fit. This cable was made for EMCOMM, Yaesu, older models of Yaesus, and some other models that I forgot, but I wasn't interested in them. I was just interested in the Yaesu. But it wasn't compatible to the TYT, the Wouxun, and another Chinese brand called Wouxun. I don't know about the Bofeng radios because I don't have one with me, but I'm almost willing to bet money that it's the same as the Wouxun and the TYT radios, because they probably got it from the same source over there in China or wherever. So here's the plug that I purchased from Argent Data. And it's that Kenwood style plug, side connector plug that fits into the side of Kenwood radios. In this case, this is the Wouxun. You got the two holes there, 2.5 millimeters and 3.5 millimeters. And the TYT, which follows the same format. And then the Yaesu radio here that has this sort of pigtail to convert this proprietary plug that they have here to be broken out into these two smaller ones here. And it's the same size hole, 2.5 millimeters. And this guy right here is 3.5 millimeters, so it's basically the same. So what you would need to do is buy those plugs out of your local electronics store. And there are many, flavors to that. So what you see here in front of you is your stereo plug here, your standard headphone stereo plug here, and that is 3.5 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch stereo plug. The difference between a stereo plug and a mono plug is the stereo, you have two audio lines sharing the same sort of plug. So you got your tip, that middle part there is the ring, and then you have the sleeve. And another term that they use to describe this is TRS plug, tip, ring, sleeve. Now this here is your mini plug, sub-mini phone plugs for other devices as well. And this is a stereo configuration because it's got two lines and your ground. And again, the same format, TRS, T, tip, ring, sleeve. And then you have your old style plugs from way back when, which is still in use today. And it's just your regular TS plug, tip, sleeve. There's no ring there, and you can see the difference there. This is just a mono plug using only one speaker, and these are stereo plugs using two speakers in a stereo configuration for all you pro audio guys out there. So here's your schematic to the cable that goes with Yaesu radios, EMCOMM radios, and I think some others. Not Kenwood and not the Chinese radios here that you see in front of you. So this is a representation of this plug here. And if you notice, on the left side, it's the 2.5 millimeter tip sleeve mono plug, and on the right side is the 3.5 millimeter tip sleeve mono plug. And we're only going to use 3 cables to this: transmit audio, receive audio, and ground. And here's the representation. Transmit goes into the smaller 2.5 millimeters, or in the US 3 and 32 inch mono plug. Receive is the bigger plug, the 3.5 millimeters, 1/8 of an inch mono plug. And then the ground is tied into the sleeve of the mono plug on the bigger plug. There's no ground attached to the smaller one here, on this one here. So you're only using 3 lines to interconnect to your radio. This part right here is what's going to connect to your Simplex repeater. Ground, receive, and transmit. To push to talk, the actual transmitting of the radio, this action right here. So push to talk is actually being shared by the transmit line. So this transmit line is doing 2 functions at the same time. It's going to give the signal to let the radio know to transmit, and it's also going to pump in the transmit audio. The receive line is only one. It's only one line going to the radio. So this is the common scheme out there for Yaesu's and EMCOMM radios. The Kenwood style radios is the complete opposite. Okay, so here we go. This is the input of the Simplex repeater that corresponds to that jack right there. Got it upside down here. So that's what it is right there. And the little manual that they send you gives you how to interconnect that if you're going to build your own cable. So going from right to left, it goes from 1 to pin 8. And these are the functions of each one of these pins. If your radio is providing the power, that will go to pin number 8, 7 is unused, and so forth. You could read the rest of it yourself. But in our build, it'll be this here. The transmit line is going to go to pin 3 of this RJ45 jack. And this is your regular networking computer patch cable connections. The receive line is going to go to pin 6, and your ground is going to go to pin 4. And that's this thing here. And you would need a crimping tool, RJ45 crimping tool, to crimp the wires into this device here. So that's why for most of you guys, especially the newbies, it's best for you to just buy the specific cable from Argent Data. For the rest of you guys that have weirdo radios or older obsolete radios that they don't make cables for, you're going to have to build your own. And I'm just doing this as an example. Okay, shut up. I'm just building one just as an example. The bottom line is you don't want to use this independently floating plug connectors to plug into your radios, because I found that it pops off. So if you put it on the mountaintop and for whatever reason the force of it over time kind of just nudges it ever so slowly out, and it'll actually disengage from the Chinese radios. I'm imagining the American radios and Western radios, you won't have that problem, but I've experienced this with this particular radio, so I'm sticking with this. That'll provide somewhat more of a securing force to the radio. But this is just an example on how to do it from start to finish. I'm not going to use this cable. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tin the soldering point to the wire itself. And tinning is putting a sort of like a paint or coat of solder to the metal part, so when on both the receiving connection point here and your cable, so when you actually go to apply the heat to stick those two together or bond those two together, it won't take as long to bond them together. The heat is your enemy when you're soldering, and flux is your friend. And then I got a big old can of goop there. Now here's an example of why tinning is very important when you're soldering connections in electronics. See, this is the spot that we need to go. This is the tip of the mono plug. This back here is the ground, and we need to connect something there. That's easy. It's out in the open. You could just glob a piece of solder there, and you're okay. But this tip portion right here, this little portion right here, is surrounded by plastic. Now, if you just put bare metal to the bare metal here without tinning it, you're going to take twice as long to melt the solder and the surrounding area to make that bond between the two pieces. In that case, more heat is generated, and you run a chance of melting the plastic around this area right here. Now let's interconnect the other end that connects to the Simplex repeater. And it's an RJ45 port, similar to what you see in back of computers, routers, switches. It's got 8 pins, and it has this telephone looking plug-in that you're all familiar with. And you would need a crimper. And this is an EZ RJ45 crimper. You could use it for RJ12 and RJ11. 4 pins, 6 pins, and 8 pins. If you're in the industry, yeah, you would have this, but for regular home use, I think it's viable for home users too, so no big deal. This crimper here is kind of easy because it goes straight through. Sometimes on the older ones it just stops right there, so you have to kind of trim everything just right to get it in there. Screw that, we got to do things quick. But anyways, let's see, let's go with pin 3 is transmit. Pin 3 would be red. That'll be the first one there. Pin number 4, the next one over, is ground, and that's black, it's already there. And pin number 6 is receive. So there you go. Pin 3, pin 6, no, pin 3, pin 4, and pin 6. Now this is where you have to kind of like, and the diagram shows you how the plug is orientated. And the crimper sometimes have the sort of a cheat sheet already stamped right into the tool itself. So from this side on this way, it's pins 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 going down. So that corresponds to this being, let's see, sometimes I forget. Okay, this bottom portion there is pin 1. I'm going to have to flop it over. And this is kind of tricky because if you had all 8 wires, it's somewhat easier to navigate this, but you're playing with 3. You know, I'm going to have to do this another method. Stand by. So to fit these 3 wires only to your jack here, I needed to kind of stagger the sizes so I could fit one in at a time instead of all 3. Like I said, if I had all 8 wires, it would have been easier, but that is not the case. So 1, 2, 3. That's slot number 3. Black is pin number 4 right next to it. Oops, I missed a slot. This is tricky, guys. 1, 2, 3. Pin number 4 and 6. I'm going to have to finagle somehow. 5, 6 right there. Actually, it went into the 7th slot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I'm right. I got it. See how kind of tricky this could get? And I just slipped this all the way up to the front there. And you can see why this is an easy crimp, because the wires just go straight through. And it's a hell of a lot easier to make these connections. Now fill it, put it through my crimper here, crimp it down, and it makes the cuts for you and everything. Boom, I'm done. Okay, let's do a final test. Got all the radios on, tuned to that channel. I got the scanner in the background tuned to that channel. Here's the test radio, a working TYT Chinese radio. So we're going to use my little skeletonized cable here that we just made. Here's the Argent data. Plug it in. Here's the side port here, the speaker mic connection. 3.5 millimeters plugs in. 2.5 millimeters plugs in. I have the volume at mid-level, roughly. And I'll pick one of these up and see what happens. Oh, turn on the device.
Test 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Test 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, let's do this again, guys. My reverse engineering wasn't the greatest on this. So this is the transmit line here. The 3.5 millimeter plug. It actually needs a TRS stereo plug. Tip, ring, sleeve. And the connection, the tip is not used at all. Or the ring is your transmit line, I'm sorry. And the sleeve is actually your push to talk, which is somewhat backwards. I don't know, I wouldn't have designed it that way, but it is what it is. So my red cable here is going to go into the transmit line right here, and that is the sleeve or the ring of the connector there. It's on there pretty securely now. And now I'm going to connect the sleeve, which is push to talk. It needs an external push to talk signal, supposedly, on these freaking radios. That's what happens when you don't have schematics to this. You just got to reverse engineer it the best way you can. And I'm doing the mistakes here now so you guys out there in the field wouldn't have to do it yourself. Okay, there it is. Okay, so here's my speaker. The tip is going in. It's tacked in there pretty good. Now this is the ground. Just plain old ground. Now it's going to go on the sleeve. Okay guys, I finally got it working, but it took a little bit more reverse engineering. This stand was kind of screwy. I wouldn't have built it this way, but that's the way it is. So here we go. We got the TYT radio, custom cable going into the Simplex repeater there.
Test 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let me turn that down a little bit. Oh yeah, it was way up high, so it was distorting. But as you can see, it's working now with the TYT radio. Now let's put in the Wouxun radio. So I'll disconnect these two there. Just bear with me here. I'm going to transmit push to talk line, 3.5 millimeter, and my receive audio line, 2.5 millimeter.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Test 1, 2, 3. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Test 1, 2, 3.
So that's working on the Wouxun radio. And this is the final schematic of finally what's working on this. So on your smaller 2.5 millimeter plug, the tip is your receive line, and that's going to pin number 6. That's going to pin number 6 on your RJ45 cable, right down here. On the sleeve, you have your ground going to pin number 4. So this plug right here is just a regular tip sleeve connector, a mono plug, 2.5 millimeters or 3 and 32nd plug. On your transmit side, you need a TRS stereo plug, a 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 of an inch plug. Your transmit audio is going to pin 3 on the RJ45 plug and is going into the ring of this plug, which is weird. Usually it's on the tip. I'm not familiar with Kenwoods. I never owned one of those before, just the mobiles. So that's new. That's news to me. So you got 3 sections on that thing there. Tip, ring, sleeve. Transmit audio is on the ring, and then it's got a separate push to talk signal on the sleeve. So you're going to have to configure your cable to do an extra wire for push to talk, your actual transmit signal to make your radio transmit. And that's what I was having problems with when I interconnected this radio here the first few times around. So this is the final product here right now. That's why it's kind of convenient to have the manufacturer make this cable for common radios here, but sometimes we don't have that luxury. I'm going to have to interface this with the older radio just like this here. And now that I know what the signals are, I can make my own cable. Field repairs, if you know how to build it, you know how to fix it. There you have it. You can fix it yourself out in the field. Or in my case, this original plug wasn't going to work because there is no tip ring sleeve on this connector here. It's just a tip and sleeve. So this cable will not work for me at all. So I have to convert this back into a Yaesu configuration. So there you have it. That was how you interconnect radios to other devices. Another third example, using the Chinese radios that are very popular. So that is what I'm going to use. As a bonus, remember I had that radio that didn't work? The transmitter microphone wasn't working? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's no audio being transmitted. Well, through the side port here, it actually is working.
Test 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So the transmitter is actually, the transmit audio is actually working through the side port and not the microphone. So the microphone is confirmed that it's kind of screwed up, or some component between the microphone and the side connector, which cannot be too far apart. So that's a bonus for me. I can stick this radio up in the hill since it's damaged anyway, and save this other one for another person. So this will be able to be utilized and put into service. So there you have it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Hopefully we'll get into the good in coming soon. The next video will be how to configure the radio and the Argent data for more of a prepper configuration. That Roger beep that you hear at the end, I want to knock that out. I want to knock out the display lighting on this here so it'll save power. All sorts of little details that you would need to kind of make your system more efficient and a little bit more stealthier. And that's what I'm going to do next. It's going to be programming these two devices to work in unison together to help you out in the field.
Gorilla Geek, go